Welcome to the Army Football Podcast. I'm Sal Interdonato, beat writer for the Times-Herald-Record, here with my co-host Steven Anderson, captain of the 2010 team that won the Armed Forces Bowl. Steve, after Army's 64-6 win over Fordham Friday night, I was trying to tape Nightcap from a box at Mikey Stadium, and I found a picture of you holding the trophy of the Armed Forces Bowl.
Yeah, no, the game was a statement, Sal. That's what we want to try to get at is every season we come into a lot of unknowns. Is this going to be the year Army takes it over the cusp and becomes a dominant program to be reckoned with, just like our other service academies? And it's a good thing that we didn't fall into that trap playing a 1AA team. That I think the message was sent from Coach Muckin that this team is dangerous. You have one of the best back, arguably the best back in 1AA, a quarterback that's spent season with a lot of returning starters. And the fact that 2 years ago we lost to this team at that very stadium. So those guys coming in with the right mentality, making a statement, that Army football is over that cusp, and we're going to start being a force to be reckoned with this season and the years coming forward.
Yeah, I was at practice yesterday, and they hand out Ranger jerseys for effort, and the whole first team defense was wearing a Ranger jersey for their performance against Fordham because they held Fordham to 6 points. Just watching that defense, Steve. They lost some pieces from last year in the two captains, Andrew King and Jeremy Timpf, but I thought the defense looked it was the first game of the season. Maybe they were supposed to look fast. But to me, they impressed me with their speed and the way they were able to swarm to the ball.
Well, more than anything, I think I know talking to a few of my buddies, our size was, we're bigger, we're stronger than last year. It was, and maybe it was just the matchup, but, we were definitely imposing our force on Fordham throughout the game. And, you can go into about losing the captains of defense. No defense is ever the same after you lose, two senior captains that played the way King and Timpf did. Those are your heartbeat of your defense. But I'm really excited to see Ackerman out there, playing and living up to everybody's, hype about how well he was going to play. He's a big dude, 6'2", 250, 260. He's a big guy. Christian, I think he had that tip ball.
Yeah.
Found himself in the right places, found those holes in the defense when they were passing the ball. And I thought he played great. I know we talked about it last week how, as a young guy, he's already reached the ability to be able to kind of play the game within the game and understand the scheme of things and find the right places to fit on those drops and where he fits on his reads and everything. So, they played great all the way around. We just gotta, as any great team knows, you're gonna go back and look at the film and make sure that the things you didn't do so well, you get better at. I'm sure guys missed assignments. I'm sure guys their eyes weren't in the right place, which is all fine. First game, it's okay to make those mistakes. You just want to prevent them in the future.
Yeah, it was a really strange game in the second quarter. Army ran one offensive play, a 71-yard touchdown by Ahmad Bradshaw on a keeper. Fordham ran 32 offensive plays. And that's what Coach was getting at in the post-game press conference and a little bit yesterday at his press conference, is getting off the field on defense. Didn't like that, Fordham was able to sustain the drives. And it was Steve, they didn't punt. Army didn't punt, and they didn't complete a pass. And they won by 58 points.
Nobody's gonna be mad at you when you have 513 rushing yards, you win by 58, and you control the tempo of the game. It's just me and a couple of these old guys wanted to look at possibly working on that passing game a little bit, since we will need to be able to rely on that in future games. But since the beginning of the time, through Little League, through when football first started, the old saying was, if you can run the ball, there's no need to pass. And having, multiple, 7 different scores on offense, all from, freshmen all the way to seniors, trying to build that depth later on, trying to build, the program for future years. And that's how you do it, is you get the depth. You get guys knowing your bread and butter better than anything else. And I think that they understand that, if there was any worry in the passing game, they would have definitely addressed it. But I think they're pretty confident in Bradshaw's ability to execute the offense.
Yeah, you look at going into this game, slot back depth was that question. Kel Walker was not playing due to the violation of team rules. They had John Trainer, Jordan Asbury, and a bunch of freshmen. And then you have Fred Cooper, Zach Bubis, Artis Hobbs all get into the end zone in their first career game, and they played a couple other slot backs, freshmen, T.J. Wisham and Dominic DeStefano. So those guys got their first taste of college football and what it's like, and that can only help them down the road, like you were saying. And then you look at the fullback play. I mean, Woolfolk right away, 89 yards of rushing in the first quarter. Davidson pops a touchdown in there, and when Kalen Holt and Connor Slomka played, they had some big carries too. So, we said that early in the preseason, sky's the limit for this offense, really. And like you said, the offensive line, wow, Steve, the holes there were incredible. I mean, I know I could have ran at least 10 yards on some of those carries. So.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it's important those guys get a taste of success early and often because, they'll be able to compare what it feels like when games don't go the way that last game will. Because unfortunately, I've played this game, and anybody who's played the game and watched the game, there's going to be some trying games. There's going to be some games that really test our ability to overcome adversity and overcome, the game within the game. And those guys need to be able to pull from those successful times and remember what it felt like. And absolutely, Sal, the quarterback and fullback play is going to be the reason our slot backs have the ability to catch a pitch or hit the toss or run the counter or that sets up everything sets up the play action pass. So we continue to see big things out of Woolfolk, Davidson, and then, some of the younger guys that have Bradshaw and some of the younger quarterbacks get in there. Those pitchbacks are going to have, 30, 40, 50-yard streaks. And, man, when they catch that ball, they put that foot in the ground, get north and south, they pick up yards real quick.
Yeah.
And it just spreads out that defense, spreads them out, and then, bam, here comes our bread and butter quarterback, fullback exchange up the middle. So, absolutely. And, we didn't – the biggest thing I know, throughout most of the game, not a lot of our running backs went forward when they were getting hit.
Yeah.
We were landing forward. We weren't getting pushed backwards. We weren't landing on our back. We weren't getting tackled on our back. We were just giving guys enough to where they missed, or they just got enough where we continue to fall forward. And that's going to come pivotal when we have those second and short, third and short situations where our guys are just used to falling forward.
Yeah, 47 carries, 0 for negative yards, all, positive yards, for Army. And you look at, I think another key thing to talk about real quick is being able to play a lot of different players, getting Bradshaw out of the game and keeping them healthy after the first drive of the second half, getting those offensive linemen who have some little nicks, preseason nicks and bumps, and, getting them out too and getting some of the younger guys. And that can only help. You got Buffalo on Saturday, and you get Ohio State next Saturday. You want to be as healthy as you can heading into this weekend and next weekend. So that's got to help. Just want to bring up a column I wrote this week about the expectations of the program, and like we mentioned earlier in this podcast, taking care of business, not making that Fordham game as close as a lot of people thought it would be. And just the expectation to win, Steve. I know I think you shot me a text message earlier in the week about when you were there at Army, what you wanted the program to be, what your vision of the program to be down the road. And now are you I mean, it's a little bit later down the road, but are you seeing what you kind of thought the program would be when you left?
Yeah, the biggest thing is the culture. And Coach Monken's absolutely brought a culture to Army football because it all starts with mentality. You have a mentality around a program that, it holds people accountable, discipline, hard work ethic. You have all this culture things, and that'll play out, and it'll play out in the off season. It'll play out during spring ball. It'll play out during preseason camp, and then during the season, that's your time to allow all the things you've been working for to come out and just kind of get to be loose and just play together as a team. And that's the biggest thing I always wanted to see, and one thing that I always try to do with the program at West Point was it's a mentality year round, and then when it comes to game time, you take care of business, and you just get to have fun with the guys that you just bled, sweat, all these things with all throughout the off season. And yeah, I mean, it feels good to know that the program is going to finally take that leap of ability to come over this hump we've been in for the past 15 years and really just start dominating college football the way our sister academies have been doing it.
Yeah, and you look at a couple guys did not play against Fordham due to academics or a violation of team rules, so you get back Kel Walker this week, one of your top slot backs. Elijah Riley, cornerback, who has a little academic issue, may or may not play against Buffalo. You get back Jatiel Klein, who's a wide receiver who you never know might be able to stretch Buffalo's defense. So they were playing with a couple pieces that they didn't have against Fordham. That'll help. And you just look at, like I wrote about, you could always put team goals on the wall at the start of every season, but how realistic are those team goals? And a couple of years ago, some of those team goals seemed so far-fetched. And now one of those team goals, Steve, is to be a top 25 team at the end of the season. And they did get 2 votes in the the coaches poll this week. So, it's a step-by-step process, but, the schedule, we talked about this earlier. Minus Ohio State, the schedule's very favorable, so we'll see if they can keep it going against Buffalo on Saturday.
Yeah, and let's not forget here who is really America's team. Everybody in America, except for maybe even Navy and Air Force, want us to do well because it just makes everything better for not only the service academies, but it makes it better for the CIC. It makes it better. People want to know that our armed forces are winners. And I talked to one of my buddies today, and he was like, man, you played for Army, you played, how'd you guys do when you're there? What's up with how come it took us so long to beat Navy? They're still confused about it because guys that don't know the program like we do, Sal, are confused on why it's been so long since we won, and they didn't get to see all the change of coaching staff, the change of offense, the change of defense, the recruiting, all this and that, all the different things that went into allowing West Pointers to go pro and then taken away, and all these little things that hurt recruiting and everything. I think Coach Bunkham's finally got the right mentality between the players who are recruiting, the system they're playing in, and then what it comes down to is the same thing we preach in the Army is holding one another accountable. Me holding my peer accountable is better than an outsider or a coach or somebody else holding them accountable because it doesn't mean the same thing. There's no ownership there.
Yeah, no doubt. And it just looked like they're watching practice on yesterday. It was Tuesday. Thunderstorms came through West Point, and they had a practice inside the Foley Athletic Center. This is a loose bunch, too, but a loose bunch in terms of confidence, Steve. They know how good they are, and they know how good they can be. And like you said, holding each, all Jalen McClinton talked about, who had by the way, we should mention this, who had a great game against Fordham, an interception, 7 tackles. He said everybody's got to do their 111th. And I heard that from Andrew King a lot last year, on defense. Everybody doing their 111th, making sure everybody's holding, to their responsibilities. And wow. The play that stood out for me, Steve, is when Fordham had the ball. I think it was a 3rd or 4th down inside Army territory, and they called a direct snap to Chase Edmonds. They're trying to fool Army. Guess what? Jalen McClinton was in the backfield for a loss. It was just like these guys are really playing sharp. And now with Buffalo, you can't underestimate Buffalo either, because last year Army went to Buffalo. They were 3-0, and they lost a really tough 23-20 overtime game. I remember talking about that.
I remember watching that game and feeling like we had the game won. I mean, we were winning going into the fourth quarter.
Yep. Yeah, and Buffalo just the same quarterback that they have now, Tyree Jackson. He's a 6'7", 245-pound sophomore now. Led Buffalo on a little comeback. Army's defense couldn't really get off the field on a couple drives. He found the tight end to keep, who's now playing. Who's now in the NFL with the Bengals. Keep a couple drives alive. So how Coach talked about not forgetting about that Fordham game 2 years ago. I'm sure the message is this week also. From about last year's game against Buffalo, just to keep them on course and stuff, right?
Yeah, no, and that is a lot of guys on the team remember that game last year, and they remember the feeling, and they know that this guy's an athlete that we're going up against. We know that like you said, the 111th on defense and the 111th on offense is going to be huge. And not falling into that trap. Coming off a high. There's coming off a high on executing a fairly great game where not a lot of mistakes were made. But understanding that coming into this game, there's some bad blood from last year where they let one slip away, and hopefully they use that for motivation to kind of set the record straight and show in another statement that we are not the team from 2 years ago, and we're even better than the team last year who ran the table and beat Navy and won a bowl game. So it's another statement game, in my opinion, because it's a team that it's going to show how far we've come in a year and how far Coach Monken has brought this team to where we want to be a power program within the football realm.
Yeah, no doubt. Army's won 4 straight games now, dating back to last year. They look for their 5th Saturday against Buffalo. The last time Army won 5 straight games, we have to go back to that 1996 team. So, let's see if they...
Yeah, I'm all about... Now, look, I love Coach Kalwika, one of my best mentors, but I'm tired of talking about all these 1996, records, all right? Like, everybody, it was a great team, and... I learned a lot from that man who was a captain on that team that set me straight for my football career. But I would love to be able to get out of the 90s and start talking about the last thing started to happen was, 2010, 2011, 2015, 2016.
Yeah. No doubt that was 21 years ago, so that's a while back. And this program started to erase some of that, in the during your season in 2010 and last year too. We'll see what happens on Saturday. Like you said, a good test for Army with Buffalo, who lost their opener to Minnesota 17-7 on the road. Minnesota is a pretty good team out of the Big Ten, so Buffalo's defense played pretty well and had Khalil Hodge make 20 tackles in that game, one of their linebackers. So something to watch there. We'll be back next week to review that game, but always good talking Army football with Steve Anderson.
Absolutely. Beat Buffalo.